What's going on, guys? Seth and Chevy here. We just watched episode 3 of Nier Automata, or Automata, however you want to say it. Full spoilers. Moving ahead, Chevy, you want to give us a real quick recap of the main things that happened?
Yeah, so we continue from the last episode where they just got done assisting the Resistance, fighting a bunch of robots, and are escorted back to the Resistance camp where they are introduced to a bunch of people you'll be familiar with if you played the game. If not, you basically you have your weapon vendor and your item vendor. They go up to, I can't remember her name right now, but she's basically in charge of the camp, where we are also then introduced to Jackass, who was mentioned last episode, and
what a name.
They bring a report back with them that shows a map of robots forming in a desert in an unusual way, which is the actual reason why 2B and 9S are even here. So they, without telling them that, offer to take care of it for them. They hop in the back of the Jackass's truck, and they drive out to the desert. And
blowing up a wall to get out there.
Yeah, a very unconventional door. And then as we get out there, and I'm simplifying a lot of this, but as we get out there, the robots attack. We're given a fight scene where we have a little bit of the robots kind of like saying some human phrases. We're also shown 9S hacking into the larger robot, which we're provided a scene which kind of like gives some insight on why the robots look the way they look. Once that is done, one robot shows up late, freaks out, runs off. They give chase, and as they are following it and end up in a old abandoned housing district, they start running into the bodies of old androids that have been brought there, it seems, including the original reconnaissance unit that was lost, that was mentioned also last episode. As they continue on, they end up getting to a point where the sand collapses below them, and Jackass manages to not fall, but 9S and 2B fall down, and we're then shown.
But they're fine because they got pods, and pods let you glide around.
Glide down, yep. And as they're gliding down, they notice the entire structure is basically kind of held up by a bunch of like robot bodies, masses of them. And as they hit the ground, there is some that are not shut off or deactivated or whatever. Talking about children and birth and stuff like that, and different acts of intimacy are shown there. And as the androids get close, they start chanting, "This cannot continue." If you're familiar with the game, it's a pretty iconic scene. As all the robots start waking up and gathering, climbing up these pillars of dead robots, forming an orb in which cracks open similar to an egg, and a robotic form falls out that is the skeleton of an android, and starts forming skin. They immediately go to attack it before it can do anything, and after they defeat it, another one comes out of it, much more aggressive, and the cavern starts to collapse, so they decide to retreat. This is where we were left off at the end of this episode.
It's worth mentioning, too, that the one that came out of the original grabs the original and leaves with it.
Yes. And then we get an end credit scene where they basically explained the mechanics in the game of riding animals in a very comedic sense, where they bowl over a bunch of Yorha units. So,
and literally, as a ball, gets rolled into some pins, which is fucking ridiculous. So,
thoughts?
This is a cool episode. I liked this one probably the most out of the three. The show is getting better for sure. I have kind of mixed feelings on the show because I feel like in the first episode, I was like, am I going to watch this series for novelty? Because like I like the story. I'm a little loose on my knowledge of lore, though. I realize as I'm watching this, because I remember a lot of the key scenes, but I haven't played the original game since
Years.
a year. Yeah, it's been a while. So like I'm watching this, I'm like, oh yeah, this thing's happening. But a lot of it, especially in the first episode, is exactly like the game, and this has a lot of like you said when they went to the resistance camp and they're talking to the vendors. I'm like, oh, that's fun. Like, for anybody watching this who's never played the game, they're gonna go like, oh, they're meeting all the people in town. But for everybody who played the game, like, oh, these are like actually people you interact with in the game. So they have these little Easter eggs, but it feels a little less exact. By this point in the game, you would be running around in fields in the town, collecting things, fighting robots, stuff like that. They just go straight to the resistance camp, get set out on their mission, and the whole point I'm trying to make is it started to feel a little more like they have a specific idea for this anime and not just recreating the game exactly, even though the story is so far
super on beat.
Yeah, the same thing. They are getting a little more creative in the way they're presenting it, which I appreciate. I feel like the first episode was just kind of like an acknowledgement of like, yes, this is the game story. That's what you're getting. So, but in the last 2 episodes, it feels like it's getting a little more creative and more fun for me to watch because, yeah, I didn't want to just like. I would watch it like for novelty, but I don't think it'd be as good as the game. I would just go play the game at that point. So anyway, it is getting better. This episode crammed a lot into it. Halfway through the episode, I'm like, so they go to the resistance camp, they go to the desert and fight some stuff. Like, where are we going with this? And then, as soon as they went in the hole, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about this part. And so it's starting to get interesting already. It's really weird for me too watching this because like I keep mentioning the game. You spend so much time in these zones running around doing stuff, and in this there's like from the city straight to the desert. Boom, we already got the 2 android dudes showing up. I'm just like, okay, fuck, we're just flying through this. But they have to. I don't know if they're gonna do a season 2, so I don't know what they're gonna have in this season. But yeah, the episode was cool. We had some fun in the beginning with Jackass wanting to take apart everything in sight, looking at 9S and 2B and asking if she can dissect them essentially, and then she once said no to wants to do that to the pods, and they don't want that either. And at one point she brings up again, and 9S is like, that'll never happen, like just like drop it. So that's kind of funny. And even later out in the desert, she's like super into everything that's happening and looking at everything. She wants like data. Even when she finds like the mask thing that was on one of the robots, she's talking about how it's from like ancient human design or whatever, like how they had things. So, and she's super into it. While 9S and 2B are just staring at her, waiting to go. Then the truck scene, it's fun. Just getting characters from point A to point B, but the whole explosion and the pods getting left behind for a second was interesting. The fight scene was cool with the robots. It's not the best animation ever, but the style's cool. They definitely appreciate the game, and they're trying to represent the game's very distinct style through animation. I think they do a good job on it. It's cool to look at, and it does feel like the game, so I appreciate that. And then, the scene where they go in the hole was very much like the game. And I was watching that, I'm like, this must be like so confusing for somebody maybe who hasn't, and it's supposed to be. It's all unraveling, but I remember playing the game and I'm like, this game doesn't make sense. And then you go to the second playthrough, like, oh, okay, things are starting to unfold here.
Sure.
There's a bigger story here that the guy who made this game is crazy fucking brain. He's like a weirder Kojima when it comes to the way he's like unraveling a story, like how his brain works. But anyway, I was watching this and I'm like, we're 3 episodes into this. I wonder what somebody who hasn't played the game is thinking at this point, because it's, you're seeing these robots replicating procreation, like fucking an intimacy, like you said, and then they give birth to these 2 androids. One, well, not 2. They gave birth to 1, and then another one comes out of that one. I keep wanting to talk about that too, but that's from the game perspective, so we have to talk about what we saw in the episode. That was done really well as well. Overall good episode. I'm curious to see what we get in the next episode. I know where this all goes, but getting these large chunks of multi-hours of gameplay condensed into an episode, it's kind of hard for me to know exactly what the next episode's going to be, because there's so many things that come, obviously. So, but yeah, cool episode. I think things are getting better for sure. I'm glad to see there was no CGI in this episode, because this is definitely a show that's its weakness. Like, that's the weakest part of the show, was any CGI scenes. I can look past it too, but every time I see it, I'm like,
it'll be back, but yeah.
it'll be back for sure. But every time I see it, I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. We can
Really,
move
the
on
only
from that.
problem with it, in my opinion, is that it doesn't mesh well.
It stands out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not even trying to be like, well, the CGI is not good.
Yeah, I don't
It's
care
just
about
like
CG,
it's just, yeah. I'll look past bad effects. I don't care. But as long as the storytelling's there, but it's jarring because it just doesn't look like the rest of the show.
That is 100% what it is.
Yeah. So every time I see it, I don't even want to notice it. I'll look right past it. But when I see it, I'm like, I feel like you could have did something. The animation doesn't have to be like that much better. I just feel like, visually could have made it look a little more like everything around it. But
Yeah.
oh well. We didn't get any of that in this episode, so no point in really talking about it. But overall, I like the episode, and definitely interested to see episode 4.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much have identical opinions on it. I appreciate that it is very faithful, while also leaving some room for the people making the anime to kind of like tell the story in their own way as well. All the scenes with Jackass and stuff like that, that's not in the game.
Yeah.
So, and it was fun. I liked it. It doesn't ruin the pace of the story. That person is an NPC that stands in the desert. So, like,
Yeah, and it adds a little bit too, because like the game's a pretty solitary experience. A lot of times you're by yourself, or you'll run into like a weird anomalies, like robots who do interesting things, or you'll talk to people when you're in the resistance camp. Buying things and selling shit, stuff like that. But other than that, like a lot of times you're just by yourself, and then there's like an overall narrative that's happening. And so I don't know how well that would translate to an anime. So it is good that they're featuring characters that can add some kind of lightness, maybe some comedic charm to it, because like 2B has no fucking sense of humor. 9S, he's a little more lighthearted, but like neither of them are like super charming, and like when they got to kick ass, they kick ass, and that's what we want from them. So it's good that they're getting creative with expanded lore, the other characters in the show.
yeah, one,
it's
making it a pleasure to watch as a show.
Yeah.
While still being the story. So I like, every time you see someone kind of take on another story and bring it to another medium, you have the concern, are they going to be respectful? And they're being 100% respectful. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that a lot. I do love the way they do the 2D is very, very well drawn. I love the way they handle the scenes and stuff like that. The animation's fine. Like it's not bad at all. I'm not trying to talk it down. It's just, there's so much like crazy animation out there these days. It's hard not to notice.
I wouldn't even bring it up outside of like a lot of our reviews so far. We talk about the animation because it's a core component of the anime.
Yeah.
But sometimes we're like talking about like, wow, this looks amazing, and then sometimes it's like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then if we watch one that has bad animation, I'll bring it up. So
Well, I also want to. I just want to emphasize that, like, I'm not saying anything negative about it, part two, because there's animes I've watched that are literal, just like a picture, and they move the picture. There's no animation actually happening. So like this
So
is
it's
animated
like,
throughout. So
what are those? There's games on like Steam that are like just like novels.
oh yeah,
Where-
adventure games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where people just like, it's just pictures of people and you're just reading, or either like listening to them talk, and then you make like, you click on things or whatever. It's like
story based games.
it sounds like that to me essentially, which if I'm not interacting with it, the story better be fucking good.
Yeah, and you watch those and you're not watching that for the animation. You're watching it because the things that are happening basically.
Yeah.
This isn't that. Like,
Yeah,
it is
100%.
animated, so I do appreciate it. I just again, there's so many shows now. There's so many like crazy animated ones. There is a bar set there.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
But it is done well, and they definitely, like, when they do some of the movements, they look just like those characters should move, and I really appreciate that. I also love the way the pods are done, because like that is very crucial when you're playing the game to fight with them. Though you're not usually telling them to do things. That kind of like the flavor of them basically commanding the pods to do things, because you the player commanding when you hit a button. You know that you don't have that in a show. So
Yeah, they have to make it a visual experience where we're not pushing buttons. There's no input from our side, so
Yeah.
they have to let us know this is happening.
and I like that. And then I didn't expect them to actually do the scene with the robots before the androids are born.
Yeah,
They
I saw that.
did
I was like,
do
I
it.
forgot about that.
So awesome! Props to you
Yeah.
guys.
Accurate,
It-
authentic.
You know, it adds to the big picture of like what's going on with the robots as we go through. That's as much as I'm going to say. And overall, like you said, I think this was a really good episode. This happens to be another anime where the third episode just kind of solidifies it. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, looking forward to seeing how they adapt the rest of the story, and it's been fun. So,
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned the third episode thing. Just in case you guys don't know, we did our review for Trigun Stampede third episode, so make sure to check that out as well. Another show that, quick little spoiler, but definitely watch the review, got better in the third episode, but I've been just liking that show in general so far.
Yeah.
So, but it's so weird to be disconnected from the community of fans of Trigun, because I see a lot of people complaining. I'm like, I'm liking it.
I'm
I guess
enjoying it too,
I guess
yeah.
I just don't have a past with the series. So, but we're not talking about Trigun. We're talking about this. So, yeah, both of them are starting to pick up. It's just so weird to be, and we talk about this every episode at this point, but it's so weird to be watching something where, you know, I've played the game.
Yeah.
So, and it's following the story. So I'm like, I don't have the same kind of like hype or excitement of watching this as like Trigun, because I don't know where Trigun's really going.
the mystery's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mystery's gone, but I am enjoying it sounds weird, but their strategy on how to tell the story. Like with Jackass being a bigger part of the story, it just adds some flavor to it that we didn't get from the game. And that's the most important part about this show. By the end of the show, if it could offer me the same story in a way that I couldn't get it from the game, that's all I want.
Yeah.
So, and so far it's doing that.
And beautiful artwork, which they're doing. So.
Yeah. Yeah, the art's great. It
Yeah.
looks really good. It looks like the game, except for it's definitely got
It has
their
a
style.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, I like the episode.
Agreed.
And definitely curious to see episode 4. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, let us know in the comments what you guys think of episode 3 of Nier Automata. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Tell me why you think that, and what stood out to you in this episode. If you're watching this without having played the game, tell me your thoughts on the show so far.
Yeah, super curious about that.
Yeah, where do you think the show is going to go? Do you even have a guess at all? Maybe you're confused. And does that confusion hinder you from enjoying the show or not? What do you think about the action? What do you think about the characters? And yeah, let me know everything you think about in general. But I've been Seth, this has been Chevy. Stay tuned. We'll have more reviews out soon. I'm going to be doing Last of Us Episode 2 tomorrow. So look forward to that. Can't wait to see that. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys later.